Hi there. So, uh, as I was getting up this morning and preparing to come out here, I was kind of reflecting on, whether I will make this video or not because I felt this huge resistance inside. I was like, what am I going to talk about? Does anything that I talk about matter? And I remembered like the beautiful feedback I've gotten on some of my previous videos, or the last video specifically. A few people commented on it, expressing their appreciation for my sharings. So thank you for your comments. They motivate me to get up and come here, come here and share some more. I recognize that there's a hunger to receive some of these teachings from the indigenous people, those who have not been so contaminated by the kind of conditioning of the that affects so many of us here in the Western world. So yeah, I decided to move through my resistance and show up here anyway. And I've so I was kind of like reflecting on this aspect of resistance as well. It's something that I've been exploring a lot, like it feels like a long time. Like there's a part of me that feels like this real push and pull to showing up more, and a responsibility also for our collective, evolution. And then there's the inner part that wants to speak and share what is discovered and understood. And then there's the fear of like, oh, does it matter? Will people get me or not? And I I feel like maybe that's something that's worth exploring a little bit today, because I sense that I'm not the only one. I've noticed there are several people showing up on my Instagram feed who have been going through this kind of, I don't I'm not so actively like following there that I would know what's happening, but it's come from several directions that people have been um, participating in this kind of monthly challenge of showing up on social media every day. Um, and I notice, so in relation to that, I'm participating at the moment in a women's group, which is kind of a container that is held by my friend Elina Lovesta, uh, for supporting women to kind of have the courage to show up and share themselves authentically, because it's something that I've heard also from several directions, that a lot of people feel that there's a need to show up more authentically. There's so much information out there online at the moment that is created by artificial intelligence, edited by artificial intelligence, which is nice. I also use it a little bit. Uh, but it does create there's this element there that is a bit inauthentic, right? So, people, and it's fast, and, it's shiny and beautiful. And those of us who don't like really feel like we meet the, well, I don't like to call it standards, but kind of like the shape that this artificial intelligence uh, shows up as. So there can be the sense of like not being enough, like I'm not speaking clearly enough, I'm not edited enough, I don't look good enough, or um, and all that not enoughness kind of shows up. And that creates a certain that certainly creates a certain level of resistance. And it feels like this is a time to kind of show up in this battle of defense of our humanness, our naturalness, as the world becomes more robotic and more automated. To not forget that, we're also allowed to be who we are as we are, and that we have value too, just as we are. And it's the same kind of applies when we think about what we have to share in our words and our voice, in our way, in our expression, the way we look, as that there's always something for someone. There's so much. I'm just one of the things that causes resistance, at least for me, is also that, and I've heard it in some of the other women that are in this group that I just mentioned, is that there are so many options. There's so many things that we're inspired by that uh, that drive us, that motivate us, that interest us, and so many things that we've experienced that we want to share. And there can come these moments of like overwhelm that we don't feel like there's just like too much to grab onto, too many paths to walk in, which is like my way to go. And that's something that creates confusion as well, and this kind of maybe chaotic energy, like what am I going to focus on? And I notice myself also, like my mind goes into this uh, mode of you know questioning and doubting, that is what I'm sharing right now like good enough? Is it valuable? Am I just creating more confusion and mess? And I'm reminded now of, yeah, there comes this moment when you feel like, okay, what order am I speaking things in? Is this flowing in an organic way? So I took a moment before I came out here. I took out my notebook and wrote on the top of my page, hey, dear soul, what do you want me to know right now? And then the words started to come onto the piece of paper. That brought me a sense of reassurance that, it's okay, I'm enough, I'm good enough, and that the resistance often comes from the sense of like, the message that I got was that the resistance comes from this sense of I should do this, I should be showing up every day on social media like all these people who are pushing themselves and challenging themselves to have new habits, maybe, or maybe it's also a process, of like challenging ourselves to show up. Sometimes we need to kind of push ourselves a bit more to make things happen and create change, to move past that resistance. But also that it's okay to that we all do it in our own way, in different ways. Maybe I don't need to show up every single day because I have so many other things on my plate at the moment too. And sometimes my perfectionist side wants to do everything in like a really big way. um, and yeah, what came was that when I do things from a place of should, that's where the resistance comes out. So the trick is to connect with what I want. What do I want? What do I want to say? Because it's easy to get like, when we show up on, you know, online, where our information is accessed by a lot of people, there's going to be a lot of people that, don't resonate with what we have to say. There will be people that look at us and judge our, wrinkles, or what colors we wear, or where we are, or the quality of our sound, or the quality of our image. There's going to be so many people who will be driven by this conditioning of bling bling, things have to be perfect, that they will project judgment. And but then there are also those who are like just like hungry for like authenticity, who maybe need to hear our words in this very moment. And drippy nose here in the cold. um, so when we tap into that field, that collective field, there's so many energies, and that does create confusion. And as long as we're doing things, if we do things from like trying to please everyone and trying to meet everyone's desires and to protect ourselves from other people's judgment, then we're going to be in that kind of chaotic sea of not being connected to our core, our desire, our want. And then there's that element that many of us have been conditioned also to believe that our desires and our needs don't matter. We might have picked up that belief as a child, if something we asked for we didn't get, or if our emotional needs were not met, or even physical needs were not met. And so as I was walking up here to the cliffs where I'm filming this video, um, I started thinking about, you know, this perspective, some of these perspectives that I've learned during my study with the Huni indigenous people from the Amazon, who I'm connected to through my husband. I've been there in the forest several times and done plant spirit initiations, and during those times I've received a lot of like very simple, basic teachings of the way they live that that have been helping me to kind of redirect my focus and how I approach life. And there's so many things that I feel like sharing there as well. And sometimes I get overwhelmed about, like, so what's it that I want to share now? Like, I should tell the whole story in one go. But maybe what came up as I was walking over here now was the importance of connecting with our desire. The Huni Queen people, they have, maybe because of their close knit family, and this kind of the the survival of the family, of the community, depends on everyone's well-being, and everyone works for this kind of collective well-being. Um, so uh, people do things for each other. People express, because the children have had many of their desires and needs met. Children are allowed this freedom to do what they want. Very rarely are they scolded or interfered with, unless they really do something that is not okay or safe for them. Um, so they seem to have this inner confidence and sense of self-worth that what they want and need is valuable, and that what they don't want is also okay, and they have no problem expressing that. And here in the West, during my own process and journey of studying, for example, trauma and this psychological kind of narratives that we come across a lot here in the West, there's a lot of I've heard a lot about this, like, people pleasing, that, oh, people pleasing is a trauma response, it's a coping mechanism, which in a way it is, but it's also a very natural, normal function of for survival in this world. That and But a part of me became almost like allergic to, like, this people pleasing, that, oh, I have to do things as I want, and my needs and my desires are important, and which they are. But then when they're, maybe it's like something about when this inner there's like a brokenness inside, this lack of like firm connection to our own worth and value, that then we seek out the meeting of our needs and our desires in a manipulative way, um, and we kind of like are demanding in that process, rather than like knowing that we deserve what we want, and have the courage to express what we want and what we need, and to do what we want and we need, and say no to what we don't want and need in a specific given moment. um, and that creates this kind of judgment towards things not being the way we want when we want them. It's a bit messy to explain. I don't know if it's coming through. But basically, as I was walking up here, what came as something that I wanted to share is this importance of connecting with our desire and our want. And the many of us have been, when we lack this authentic connection to our inner voice, uh, we seek the kind of approval of the outside world, and then we are fed from outside these ideas of what we should want and what we should need. Maybe you need to eat this kind of food to, or you need to dress like this to be socially accepted, or you need to look like this, or you need to speak like this, or whatever. There's so many shoulds and things and advice that comes from out there. And but that's like coming from outside. That's not coming from inside. And then a lot of us, what we truly desire and want might be like different from what that outside suggests, and that creates then shame about our desire. And maybe sometimes we've been told off for what we want. I come to think of maybe like things like sex, or even things about like food. Some of us, our biology wants to feel comfort and closeness and nurture, and then we're supposed to be independent, and we're not supposed to, there comes this guilt about, eating sugar or consuming alcohol or other substances that give us a temporary sense of feeling good. And then we put on this layer of guilt and shame about our choices when we are seeking out this pleasure. So even this whole concept of pleasure is for many of us carry these stories that that's somehow selfish or taboo, sinful. So there, it does create this like inner conflict and brokenness around our self-worth. So, but our desire is really important, and connecting to our desire is really important. And I think for me, I notice it's something that um, connecting to it, and learning to value it and stand up for it is a process that takes time to learn to go into that, because it's like, when my husband often speaks when we work in the plant medicine ceremonies, that the importance of intention. You need to know what you're asking for when you work with the plant medicines also, because if you don't, then you're going to be just like an open book that's just like out there, accessible to like everything and anything, other people's energies, other people's desires, also from the spirit realms. There are a lot of hungry spirits and ghosts out here who are like so ready to take advantage of us, to feed off of our energy. And but we need to know how to like protect ourselves. So yeah, I'm kind of exploring these subjects also because I'm preparing for, with my husband, to offer a weekend workshop related to how to walk the good path in connection and relationship with the spirit world, with nature spirits, uh, so that we're not like distracted and disturbed by all these other energies that are not, possibly uh, available and supporting us in our process. Sure, they are, because they're teaching us things, but we need to get clear of what it is we want, so that we can connect with those energies and the forces that support us in getting what we want and what we need. Because otherwise we're just going to scatter our energy all over the place trying to meet everyone's needs. So we do need to have a certain degree of selfishness, of like authority and sovereignty, so that we can be protected in this world. And that means also learning how to ask. And in order to be able to ask, we need to know what we want. uh, the working with the plant medicines, for example, there's an importance in well, my husband says, like, the spirits of nature, they're always waiting there for us to ask. So if we're not going to ask, they're not going to help us. And that's, I feel, something that um, is something certainly that I'm practicing at the moment. And maybe as I'm kind of like tapping into this collective energy field, and I noticed that there is a lot of confusion about what it's okay to ask for and what is not okay to ask for. And that creates this challenge in exploring, choosing the right thing. And something that is okay in one moment might not be okay in another moment. So our wants and needs, they change constantly as well. That's why it's so important to learn how to become present and grounded in the now, and to, yeah, to connect with what is our desire, what is our want. That is our responsibility. We cannot be responsible for what someone else wants or needs, because sometimes we might sense what someone else wants or needs, but if we try to fulfill or meet their desire, they might not even be open to receiving it. They might not even be, in a space of or capacity or have that sense of self-worth that they are open to receiving something. They might be actually deflecting and rejecting our wishes to help them out. So really, it's this journey is about learning how to be sovereign and independent while we are working in this collective, together. And that brings me back in full circle to my dilemma in the morning about, like, oh, what am I going to talk about, what am I going to share? Because there's a part of me that is like, okay, it's selfish, and for me to be talking about myself, who cares what my processes are? But that I should be talking about things that are important for other people, what other people want to hear. And then there's that question of, like, okay, there's again so many people who have different wants and needs, and everyone's going to interpret what I share differently anyway. So it came back to, like, okay, I'll connect to my desire to express my process in showing up in front of the camera and speaking when I'm in this sea of confusion about, like, what do I want to talk about, who am I talking to, and connecting to that. What was the core desire? My core desire was connecting, my desire for connection. We're social beings. We long for connection. We long for people to, we long to help each other. What I've learned also with my Hunikuin husband is that for them, doing things for the other, the one who's close to you, your loved one, that's like a way of showing that you care about them, and that's a way of making, kind of keeping them happy so that they want to be with you as well. And so that kind of, like, serving and giving and sharing, uh, is what serves as the glue. So that's why it's important to know also what the other wants, and that's why it's so important to know what we want, so that other people can give us what we want, because that's what will help us move forward and keep us together and strong. Because there will be times, when things are shaky and difficult, and we need to reach out for help when we can't do things together. So yeah, helping each other out, but only when the other person, has expressed what they need and what they want. So people pleasing, I'm learning to look at people pleasing in a different way. That it's not actually something that we should be ashamed of, or judge ourselves. Maybe it is, like, really important when we do it from a conscious place, like a aware place, knowing our own boundaries, like, and we do it without, like, over giving. That we do it from a place of, like, authentically wanting to support and share others and to connect with others, rather than, like, oh, that person wants something, they didn't even ask for me, and I need to go out and give all this advice. That's that just creates more chaotic energy. So learning how to be present and waiting for the right moment to act or respond, learning to respond to the universe, learning to respond to life, rather than being always, like, one or two steps ahead, so that we would avoid the discomfort of needing to, like, get up and respond. I don't know if that made much sense. There's a lot in there, I feel. But I trust that, those of you who listen to this maybe got something there to spark something, some kind of change or thought in you. So, sending you lots of love from here, from Finland. the lands, the ancient lands, the ancient rocks here. They say these rocks here in Finland are amongst the oldest in the world. It's been so, eroded by the old, gosh, I'm having like a, why can't I remember the world? The Ice Age, during the Ice Age, there were these glaciers of ice that just like scraped off everything and left these rocks. And I'm just so impressed by these trees here that are just growing here on the cliffs on like a little bit of ground. There's a little bit of like, moss. And here they are, standing still, standing strong, uh, holding on to whatever they can hold on to, receiving nourishment from whatever they can receive nourishment from. They're certainly a bit smaller than the trees that are more connected to this kind of earthy soil, but they're still so beautiful. They're so beautiful. We don't all have to be so tall and big. Even sometimes our smallness, our fragility is really beautiful and inspiring as well. So just sending you that greeting and blessing from the lands here, that we all matter, we all belong here. Our words, our stories, our experiences matter. So let's keep sharing. Bye.